Hey there, vinyl community. It's Joel coming at you from Planet 13, and I'm just going to display some albums I picked up in February. First album I picked up is T-Rex's Electric Warrior. It's got this nice shiny cover. This is the Rhino reissue. This isn't in a plastic sleeve or there's no shrink wrap on this. But yeah, this is the vinyl repress from 2017. I think it was Rocktober, and it is a really nice deluxe kind of version. Deluxe in presentation, so it's got the tip-on cover. So that's this aspect here on the right. You can't, I guess, tip on. I don't even know exactly what it means. I looked it up, and the way I would describe it is this is a gatefold, but this side of the gatefold doesn't open up, whereas this side does open up. So this is just like one piece of cardboard glued together. The side I'm pointing at here, and then this side is the back side is the gatefold part. So yeah, this is a great album. It's classic. You all probably have it. Comes in this vinyl sleeve here. There's no extra inserts other than the nice gatefold you get of Mark Bolan. So yeah, cool album. It's a little pricier than a regular version. I think it cost me 30 Canadian, which would work out to be 24, 25 American, around there. So a little pricier than normal. Sounds great. I love it. It's an album I've had on CD, cassette, so I went for the deluxe version because I just love it so much. Next album I got, it's David Bowie's Let's Dance. This is an album I've never actually heard before. I was familiar with a lot of the songs on it. I was more into the 70s Bowie and then the 90s, later years Bowie. And I wasn't familiar with his 80s stuff other than the hits. This is a fantastic album, though. It's got Cat People on there, which I knew from the original movie, not the original, I guess the remake, the 80s movie Cat People. This was a remake of, I think, a 30s or 40s film. And then they did Cat People in, Quentin Tarantino used it famously in Inglourious Bastards. It's a different mix than what you get on here. This one's a little more poppier. And then you have Let's Dance on here, which is quite famous. And China Girl, which is a Iggy Pop cover, but I guess Bowie co-wrote it with Iggy Pop, so it's not exactly a cover. And Modern Love, and a wide variety of other tracks that I'm just getting familiar with because, again, I've only listened to this bit 3 times through other than knowing the hits. Pretty awesome album. There's the insert there. So they reissued this by Parlophone, and in the past they'd always include the insert and then the disc in an anti-static sleeve. And I guess they've dropped the anti-static sleeve, which isn't a big deal. I just kind of, I don't know. I guess when you're an album collector, you kind of notice these little things, and it just, when I got it, still love this album. I just kind of wish it came with that sleeve, even though I can buy one for like 50 cents or whatever. It's not a big deal. It's just, before when you get that little sleeve, any static sleeve, you're like, oh, this is a nice little treat. And they kind of just ditched that. Next album I got is Dio's Sacred Heart. So this is Dio's 3rd solo album release. And I wasn't familiar with this at all. This comes with this little sleeve here with some pictures. And you got some lyrics on the other side. And Vivian Campbell is still on guitar for this album. I think it's his last album they performs on. Could be wrong there. And you got Ronnie James Dio on vocals, Jimmy Bain on bass, and Vinny Appice or Appice. Appice. One of them, Vinny Appice or Appice or Appice. I can't remember. I know his brother, Carmen. Yeah, Carmen Appice, Vinny Appice. I think that's how it goes. They pronounce their last names different, even though they're brothers. And there's a story, I think Vinny Appice, he did a small tour with Ozzy. I think he did a week with Ozzy. And he told this funny story where, you know, because Ozzy's got all this makeup on, black makeup on, and black painted fingernails. And Ozzy said his last name wrong on stage. He's like, and Vinny Appice, because Ozzy toured with his brother a lot. So I guess he just assumed, like anyone would, that their last names were the same. So he said Vinny's last name wrong, and then Vinny came up to him after the show and said, I pronounced my last name like this. And Ozzy was like so heartbroken that he said it wrong. So the next night on the tour, he was like, when it came to say Vinny's name, he was like, and Vinny Appice. And he's like nodding at Vinny, like, did I get it right? And Vinny thought it was just so sweet. That is off on a tangent that I went though. And this is on clear vinyl on the Warner Brothers label. Really cool album. Again, I've only listened to it about three times. I'm not familiar with a lot of Dio's solo stuff, so it's really interesting to me to get to know that stuff. So that was released in 1985. Next album I got is Alice Cooper's Constrictor. I bought this used off of Amazon. I got it in the UK, and it came to about 18 Canadian dollars, which is pretty dirt cheap. Around here locally, a used copy goes for 36 bucks. So this is Alice's kind of metal years. He's got Kip Winger on bass, Kane Roberts on guitar. Kane is a very, very talented guitarist, and I don't think he gets much credit. But there are a lot of Kane Roberts fans, and this is a lot of people's favorite Alice Cooper album. This or Raise Your Fist and Yell, actually, the album that came after that he has with the same band lineup, is a lot of people's favorite Alice Cooper albums. Alice Cooper is kind of funny that way, in that he's survived so many decades. So you got a lot of people who will only listen to his 70s stuff, a lot of people who only listen to his early 80s stuff, which was kind of new wave, punkish, weird, bizarre stuff. This is more heavy metal, and then you kind of went like glam rock with, the song Poison, and Hey Stupid was kind of like glam metal. And then he kind of went alternative-ish, and then he went new metal, and everyone. It's fascinating to talk to Alice Cooper fans because everyone's favorite album is kind of unique. So I hope they reissue this one day. Not that I don't like this album. It kind of smells like cigarettes though, and I don't like that smell on an album. But it comes with this insert here, and the album itself, I kind of came in this paper sleeve. The album myself, I kind of find kind of funny because this is kind of like horror metal, and it's got this like a rainbow on the cover, like on the label. It's just such a dichotomy there. I think that's the right word, dichotomy. And yeah, this has the Noble track that he sang on the Friday 13th Part 6 soundtrack. He's back. And he also has a song on here called The Great American Success Story, which was supposed to be on the soundtrack to Back to School, that film with Rodney Dangerfield. Another big hit on here is Teenage Frankenstein. And he's got The World Needs Guts, which he's been doing on tour lately. So Alice always comes back to performing songs off this album. And recently his guitarist Kane Roberts released a album about two months ago, I think, and Alice does guest vocals on it, and Kane also has a few of the musicians off this album come back and play on that album. Just a year later, we have Soundgarden's debut album. So this is Screaming for Life. So this was released in 1987. Soundgarden probably hit it big in 91, 92 with maybe 1990. So, I mean, a lot of people think Soundgarden exploded onto the scene, but they had like 3 albums out before they even really hit it big. So this is a double LP in a sense, in that it has the Screaming for Life album. And it's got 3 tracks on each side. And I say double LP because they included an additional LP with 3 songs. And it's got a dub mix of Fopp, which is a really weird song. Soundgarden sings it, and it's a remix, and it sounds kind of like Pop Will Eat Itself. Or, I don't know what else to say. It's just weird. I just kind of sound like Pop Will Eat Itself because it's got electronica dance beat to it. And then there's 2 songs on here by Green River and Mudhoney. So, not even showing it. So yeah, that's the EP there. And again, I wasn't too familiar with this. The only song I kind of already knew off here was off their A-Sides album, which was Nothing to Say. That's the only song I kind of recognized off here, but I like this album so far. Again, I listened to it about 3 times, and it's pretty cool. It's got kind of that Sabbath, Zeppelin kind of quality to it that Soundgarden really delivered in all their albums. Coming up to 1989, I have Nine Inch Nails' Pretty Hate Machine. This is an album that is kind of dated in its sound, but I love it a lot. Many people argue that this is their favorite Nine Inch Nails album. It's not mine. Mine's probably a toss between Broken and The Fragile, or probably the Downward Spiral. This comes with just an insert here with the lyrics and such. Comes on black vinyl. You already know if you're a Nine Inch Nails fan or not. And if you're not, you probably won't like this album. It's very dancey. I know a lot of songs off here because it was big when I was in university. They played it in a lot of clubs. I used to go to a lot of nightclubs in Hamilton and Burlington, Ontario. And they're quite popular nightclubs. Marilyn Manson actually showed up to one of the nightclubs one day, which before he hit big. And I knew who he was, and I didn't get his autograph, but I just said, hey, I like your music. And he's a little more, I'd say he looked a little more normal then, but he still kind of looked weird. And it was weird, these nightclubs, because they were big warehouses. And you'd get thousands of kids just barely of drinking age, or not even of drinking age, and you just have probably hundreds of kids. I don't know if I said thousands, but you probably had hundreds of kids just in this one big warehouse, just dancing away to all this goth music and punk music and alternative music. Like, it was quite a mix. You know, you go from a Nine Inch Nails song to a Beastie Boys song to a Sisters of Mercy song to KMFDM to Nirvana to Rage Against the Machine, and then Korn, and just then they go back to an 80s song like a Billy Idol song. It's just a lot of fun. And I guess they don't exist anymore. They were kind of like raves in a sense, but I guess raves I associate with like one type of music, where the nightclubs you get some No Doubt, and you'd get some popular music, but mostly kind of alternative. You get Chemical Brothers, Daft Punk, just a weird wave of music. It was kind of awesome. I miss those days, but I wouldn't catch myself dancing anymore. So it would be cool just to go to catch new, like, this is a way you kind of caught new music. It's how I discovered bands like Oasis. Not that you wouldn't hear Oasis otherwise, because they're popular on the radio, but you'd kind of hear it here first. You hear the Beastie Boys, you'd hear Foo Fighters. They start playing the Foo Fighters in these clubs, and you didn't have money to really afford to buy a lot of new music at the time. You were very selective with CDs because they were like $20. And you usually had a part-time job, and you're paying your way through university. So it's a cool way to hear music, cool way to meet people, even though it's super loud. You couldn't really talk to anyone, but you kind of see these people after week. And when you go to school on campus, or you go to a coffee shop in town, you'd see these people and you'd be like, hey, I saw you at the club. And you'd make friends, because Facebook wasn't around then. The internet was just starting then. You wouldn't really have Google. Google wouldn't be around then. So yeah, it was just a different time, and I miss that era, and I guess that's all I'm going with that story. Next album up I got is from 1991, and it's Nirvana's classic, Nevermind. I had to have this. And yeah, what can I say about this? I was kind of hesitant to get this because I've had it on cassette. That's how I bought it originally, and then I got the Weird Al cover on cassette, and then I got it on CD, and I kind of overdosed on this. Like, I got the cassette when it first came out, and I didn't really get it at the time. I was a young guy. I don't know how old I was. I was pretty young. But I'd be in high school, and I didn't really get it because at the time I was listening to a lot of Cooper and Queen, because this came out when Wayne's World came out, kind of, and Bohemian Rhapsody was big, and Queen was big, and Kiss was big, and this was a different type of music that a lot of people loved in my high school, and I didn't get it at first. I remember getting the cassette and just lending it off to a lot of people who wanted to hear it. And I think I liked Alice in Chains a little more at the time and Soundgarden. And after Cobain died, I really got into this album. I finally, it just clicked with me. And then I overdosed on it. And then I was hesitant to buy this on vinyl. It's not something I really wanted. But then when I started playing the music, I was like, man, I love this music. So I'm glad I got it. It's just one of those things that I think anyone can relate to with some things. Yeah, so the last album I got came out after Nirvana. So Nirvana apparently killed off the hair metal genre, but it's not true because this album was big and it was very hair metal-ish. And it's misogynistic with the song Domino by Gene Simmons. But I love this album. Gene Simmons, you just take him for what he's worth. I think he's a really intelligent guy. I think, he just says a lot of dumb things because he's a smart guy, but like me, he's a dumb guy too. So next album up is Revenge by Kiss. I just love this album. Produced by Bob Ezrin, who did Destroyer, one of Kiss's finest, and he did Music from the Elder, which is one of people consider one of Kiss's weakest albums, even though it's got a fan base. So I remember this coming out, and the song Unholy, the video for that was just blew my mind as a kid. It just like, the song is awesome. And I remember my buddy got this on cassette the day it came out, and he lent it to me like the next day because I was like, I gotta hear this album. And I just really didn't give him a choice. I guess he saw the desperation in my eyes of how I had to get this album and hear it. So pretty awesome album for me. One of my favorite Kiss albums. Just hearing this again, I never had it on CD. I only had it on cassette, and then I never bought it on CD. But I listened to MP3s of it. Just a great album overall. Comes in this sleeve, no anti-static sleeve with this one either, and so you get this portrait shot. I guess it's not a portrait shot, you get this group shot, and then lyrics. And again, you got some misogynistic lyrics on this, but a lot of girls like this album too. I think they see it for what it is. It's just a band singing about strippers and sex and partying, and Kiss were still, even though they're kind of old here and grizzled looking, they're still in their 40s, so they can sing about this stuff, I guess. People kind of wanted to hear about that in music. That's what Kiss has always kind of delivered, and they're just a little more upfront with it. But if you're a feminist, I don't think you'd like that album at all. But who am I to say? I just kind of like it. I don't buy into it, though. I don't listen to it and go, yeah, I want to go to a strip club, or yeah, I want to treat women like dirt. It's just music. And it's just, I think it's kind of funny. And there's some romance songs on there. There's Every Time I Think of You is on there. I think that's what it's called. And that's kind of like a slow ballad kind of song. So that's my pickups for February, and that's all I got to say. And until next time, we'll talk later.